Welcome to 15K Plus Random Movie Reviews, where we take random movies from Metacritic's 15K Plus movies to randomly watch, whether we like it or not. Hello and welcome to episode 1 of 50K Plus Random Movie Reviews. Our first movie picked out of the magic hat was number 50 at the time of picking, and it was Summer of Soul, brackets, or When the Revolution Could Not Be Televised. Just a bit of information on that movie. Released in 2021. Questlove from The Roots directed it. Won an Oscar for Best Documentary. Won a BAFTA for Best Documentary. Runs for 1 hour and 58 minutes. 8 out of 10 on IMDb. 96 score on Meta. We didn't really want probably a documentary to start off on, but
no, we did not.
It works. It was harder to think about how to review it because we have 4 categories for reviewing fictional movies, so we've had to switch it about a bit. So we're going to go for topic, people, sound and production, as opposed to plot, acting, sound and production. So let's start off with the topic. Let's set the scene. 1969, Summer of Soul. It is the summer. Woodstock happened. A lot of stuff happens in 1969, but it's basically this happened. It wasn't just one night. It basically just happened over many weekends.
6 weekends, I believe.
6 weekends. So on the run up to it, you've had protests in New York. You've had unrest. You've had Vietnam happening.
Don't forget the many assassination of a black-friendly politician. Slash activists.
Yeah, 68 Martin Luther King, 68 also Robert Kennedy. I can't remember Malcolm X, 67 or 69. Was it 69?
I don't know. He was assassinated before this,
yeah.
So possibly.
And I think he was from Harlem, Malcolm X as well, so they mentioned that in it. So the topic was basically the fact that this festival was happening around the time of Woodstock and a lot of civil unrest and a lot of sort of American boiling points. So what do you think of the actual concept of this whole documentary and the actual, reality of it happening in that time?
Well, it was interesting in that simmering underneath this festival, which is basically a festival of love and family and all this sort of beautiful stuff and celebrating music, there's also a lot of anger and a lot of, tension at the time. Because if you were black and you lived in Harlem, you were poor, chances were diddly squat, and I think it was an important outlet for the guys, to blow off some steam. And I think perhaps the politicians in New York were quite happy, especially one Republican chap.
And we can get to him later on.
But it did, in my opinion,
Lindsay.
Yeah, Mr. Lindsay, it did simmer things down a little bit.
Yeah. Just some things that I found interesting. 300,000 people went to it over the course of it. It was free to go to, which was crazy, looking at all the names that were there. And this footage was 50 years sitting on a shelf. Having said that, the brackets part of the movie title, if IMDb is meant to be believed, or When the Revolution Could Not Be Televised, is inaccurate because there were 2 TV specials aired during the actual festival of it. So, they're taking a bit of artistic liberty there, but,
I think to give them some credit in that last little subtitle, after the show had been televised and the recordings had been made, the guy who had his hands on the recording could not sell these recordings to anybody.
Right.
And he tried retitling them. One of the titles he tried was Black Woodstock. That did not work.
Oh, well, yeah.
So it didn't seem like there's any appetite in any of the major networks in America to pay money for it, at least.
Right. That's very interesting. So so that probably gives it that bracket and gives it that, definitely makes it factual, the title of the documentary.
Factual-ish.
Yeah, factual-ish. So topic, so this is our first area of rating. A topic, I gave it 4 out of 5 just because it was appropriate for the time. It's an amazing sort of insight into Harlem, the culture around that. We're 2 white Irish people who are the opposite of everything that's in the documentary, but I found it really riveting to watch and a great documentary subject.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the subject itself isn't all that complex, but it's I suppose what's beneath it is complex. But on the surface, it's just an interesting documentary about a time in Harlem with a lot of good music.
Yeah,
what's not to like?
Yeah, and would we have ever watched it without
No,
random?
We would not.
Of the universe. Yeah, four each out of 5 there. So that's really sort of a glowing sort of review of the topic and its universal appeal. So let's move on to people, which, you know, it's hard to be able to differentiate people and the sound with this, because a lot of the people in this have a sound associated with them. But I would like to talk about the actual, maybe the backgrounds of some of the people that pop up in this. Did you look into Tony Lawrence, the director of this event, at all? Because I totally forgot about him. I think he's a bit of a character.
He was incredibly interesting while watching it.
Yeah.
What I did notice about him is in every shot, he's wearing a different bloody outfit. Yes. And these outfits ranged from a standard suit to, I don't know, some flamenco dancer outfit. He's epic.
Yeah, and he was actually, you know, sometimes it could be cringe, the MC job, but he was pretty cool.
Oh, he was so full of energy.
I think we have an excuse not to have done our research on him, because there's so many other people that I looked into here. As the movie kicks off, it's Stevie Wonder in a massive drum solo, which basically intersperses with a lot of civil unrest things and just a crazy, hectic sort of audio blast of his musicianship, genius, musical innovation or whatever, and then just really just seeing what was going on at the time. So Stevie Wonder, we all know, he's probably the most well-known people on the list. Younger at the time, obviously. Yeah.
A bit of Gladys Knight thrown in there as well. There was some big names, but obviously names. Stevie's a household
Stevie
name.
Starts the movie and ends the movie,
which I think is the right bookend.
Yes, yeah. Maxwell House was one of the sponsors.
Yeah, it was the most weird thing ever. I don't know how I feel about Maxwell House being a sponsor of anything.
I don't know. Maybe they've changed over the years. I'm going to just go through a couple of people here. Maybe one of the non-musician things, and we alluded to him earlier, was Mayor John Lindsay, who we see and hear he's a Republican, which is very interesting, but back then... No, actually, I don't think back then Republicans were the good guys still, were they?
Was there ever a good guy in politics in America or anywhere? No, but I think, I could be extremely wrong, but I think there was more of a shift in recent years that the Republican Party is a little more a party of the South, which is not something you would associate with Harlem.
No. And this mayor, get this, so this was filmed in 1969. In 1971, he changed from Republican to Democrat.
Get away.
Yeah.
Okay, well that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. He was massively into civil rights. He, when he became mayor of New York City, strikes were happening constantly. When he actually got inaugurated, I believe the transport systems were on strike constantly, and then another strike was happening with the garbage collectors, and literally in the streets of Harlem, garbage was being set on fire and rolling through the streets like it was part of
there were barricades of garbage at some points in Harlem, I think. Oh, God damn it, I can't remember. Excuse my French. I can't remember the name of the group. There was the Black Panthers and the something Lords, but part of their protests was they took over part of a hospital, they took over, I believe, a part of abandoned buildings, and they set up garbage blockades, which is nice. Which was nice. I suppose there's plenty of it about use what you have.
Yeah, so that was 1968. The garbage was on fire in the streets. So in 1968 as well, John Lindsay, after Martin Luther King was assassinated, he went to Harlem and walked the streets and talked to the locals. And that's why during the movie you see him get up on stage and he's not roundly booed off it as a very staunch white guy in a suit.
Everybody's happy to see him there because, quite frankly, he stood up for the people of Harlem, where a lot of people would be petrified as a white bloke, a white politician standing on stage, where a lot of angry black men are, looking at this white chap. You know, if he wasn't the guy he was, he might have been in a bit of trouble.
A little bit. And our friend Tony Lawrence liked him too. He was stay on and do a song on stage. We're gonna kind of blend people and sound, because the next people that I've picked up in here that sort of stood out to me during the movie were people who sung and performed, and they stood out to me in the documentary. So Mahalia Jackson I'd never heard of before this documentary. She died 3 years after this. She sold 22 million records. She sung at JFK's inaugural ball in 1961. Just before, in the run-up onto this 1969, she started getting a bit of health problems. And you can see that on the stage when she asks Mavis Staples to actually sing the song for her. So she's definitely done that. But she toured everywhere. She did a Japanese tour. She was the first Western singer since World War II to tour Japan.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so basically, tying her in with Mavis Staples, she basically asked her, because she looked a bit poorly, to sing "Take My Hand, Precious Lord," which was MLK's favorite song. I believe she sung it at his service. I believe
so as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Mavis Staples is also another blaster of the vocal pipes as well. She was amazing.
Stunking. Yeah, absolutely. And especially when she was assisting the other lady, whose voice was faltering a little bit. She was just, the pipes. And that lady are exceptional.
Yeah, and Mahalia Jackson came on near the end of that song, and and she's known for this. She repeats the same phrase and just gets stronger and more powerful with the actual loudness of it, basically, or the deliverance of the words. Mavis Staples is still alive. You'll be glad to know. She sings with a lot of contemporary bands, Arcade Fire, Run the Jewels, who I saw last summer in Cleveland, in Pulling the Pin Song, and she also sang the vocals for the title song of National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
There you go.
So she's still around, and she still gets involved. And
still
gigging, and Bob Dylan proposed to her, and she said, "Get lost, get lost, Bob."
Was this recently?
Don't know actually. I don't know when that happens. One more person that stood out to me during it as well was Nina Simone. I only knew her from My Baby Just Cares for Me from the 80s. So her coming up with Backlash Blues and Mississippi Goddamn songs were just new to me, and they were powerful
and angry.
Then she did a written poem about lynching white people, and there's two cops just standing there at the stage,
looking a bit sheepish.
Yeah. But she had a crazy life too. She went to Barbados because they were after for taxes. She had an affair with the Prime Minister in Barbados.
Get away.
She then went to Liberia and Switzerland and Paris. Bit of an alcoholic, just a little bit, as you do. My Baby Just Cares for Me kept her going through the 80s and 90s, and I started listening to her on Spotify this week because of this. Yeah,
her career would not have been the same had not she been black, because she was refused access to Juilliard.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And because of that, she had to play piano in jazz clubs. And part of the job she got, she wasn't getting paid all that much, but they didn't have a vocalist. So she also had to sing, and that was not something she was tried before. Oh. And that's how her career kicked off, according to my wife anyway.
Oh, well done, wife. Get her on the podcast. I think the last sort of musical section that stood out to me is Sly and Family Stone. Everyday People, didn't know it was them that sung that song, but you could see from their performance they're innovative.
But what I would say about that is the version that you and I know is by Arrested Development, I believe.
Oh, really?
And they sampled Sly and Family Stone. So I Am Everyday People, that piece it's sampled. So it is him singing it,
right?
But it's Arrested Development and the rest of it.
Okay, right. But you can tell, they're a mixture of funk, soul, pop, R&B, hip hop.
Very experimental. It's very
experimental. White and black in the same group, which,
it's interesting.
Yes. And the interesting thing is they went on to play Woodstock later that year.
Yeah.
So they transversed the barrier of
they
black Woodstock.
They were televised.
Yeah, they were televised, and they were revolting, in the positive sense of the word.
Yeah.
I think Sly became a little bit of a drunk near the end, and I looked briefly through their Wikipedia history, and Yeah, they all went all over the place. They were reunited a couple of times, and
Yeah.
yeah. Gladys Knight and the Pips came along just to talk about the song. That was really cool. I love the Pips. I'd never really seen the Pips in action, but they were sweating a storm up, and they're doing
They
the
were
pirouettes.
amazing.
They were great.
Oh, and one thing that kind of like you got the front man, who's a black woman,
Yes.
and the backing singers
Yeah.
are besuited men,
Right,
which is a kind of a juxtaposition of normal norms. You know, it's not
True.
normally
Yeah.
that way around. It's always the opposite.
That was that's interesting. A lot of church gospel singing as well, which we're not into that sort of stuff, but it was very interesting to see. And
The vocals were fantastic and all of it, just
And
not the music I enjoyed.
they did mention a little bit how that, as a black American, going to churches where you first get into that passionate of singing and just getting into
hyper
community.
important for that type of music, like the basis for it, the evolution of it.
Yeah. So during it, actually, I can't remember the quote, but during one of the weekends, they landed on the moon, July 20th.
Oh yeah.
And they were interviewing the people in Harlem, and they were going,
Don't give
"Yeah, there's the moon. I see it up there in the sky."
How does this help me?
Yeah, exactly. You need to pay people's
How
meal.
are we getting fed?
Yeah, exactly.
Where's my job?
Yeah. So people and sound there, we kind of transversed all of them there. The actual people that were involved in the documentary, I would give a 4. You have given a 4.5.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's all very, very close there. Sound brackets track 4.5. We're not. I think we're going to find things.
If you dropped the gospel, I would have given you a 5.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Yeah, and you had B.B. King there, a lot of nice guitar licks and stuff.
Yeah.
So I wonder what will make us give a stronger score here to movies that have a great soundtrack. But I think there's a lot of movies out there with great soundtracks.
We're looking at number 50 out of 15,000.
Yeah.
So that this is scored high across the board is probably right.
Yeah. And just in the last section of our review, production, I think it was very slick. Obviously, the fact that they've rejuvenated this footage from 50 years ago, it looks amazing. Yeah. And the sound is amazing. It just feels like you're there. It's not hollow. It's not dim. I liked sometimes when they did a couple of the map sequences showing Harlem's planning of the Harlem city and things like that. So I thought it was pretty slick.
And how they intersperse the historical facts and the political realities of what was happening in Harlem at the time throughout, not making it boring, not making it preachy. Mm-hmm. Inside the music was very well done. Yeah.
And I also liked that, and I can't remember which group it was. Maybe Fifth Dimension.
Oh, yeah.
Let the Sun Shine. And they did Aquarius as well.
Yeah.
They were watching the footage, I think, for the first time, and they were getting emotional. That was very cool as well. So they interspersed current day interviews with people looking at the.
In that particular one as well, there was a guy who was he attended the show as a kid.
Yes.
And his first crush was your one that was watching the footage, which I found quite interesting.
That was very interesting, yeah. So I think that was Fifth Dimension.
That was Fifth Dimension, yeah.
Yeah.
They were very good, and as they said themselves, they were always being accused of not sounding black. They were being accused of sounding white.
Yeah.
Which was apparently something they recognised, the guys who were watching the footage, because when white folk looked at the cover of the album, they seen 4 black guys staring back, and they're like, "Whoa, what's this?"
Yeah, the Age of Aquarius is a bit. Doesn't sound that black. Although they took that from the musical Hair. Yes, that was a good story they told.
And they super glued it onto one of their songs.
Right.
So Aquarius is the first part.
Yeah.
And Let the Sun Shine is the second part.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm assuming they made some money out of it.
Yeah.
And not just give all the royalties back to Hair.
Yeah, maybe. So production, we gave 4.5 out of 5 for each one. So great documentary overall. Stevie Wonder sort of wraps it up as well as a cultural importance phenomenon person.
Yeah,
he starts off
stonking, and
he was
as always.
I thought it was a weird, it's a weird jokey thing he did with his stage manager near the end.
Oh, in the credits, after the credits.
Yeah,
because he was
taking,
get your hands off my suit.
Yeah. It was funny, but then it was like, wait, what's going on? Who is that guy? So that was interesting. But anyway, yeah, Stevie Wonder kind of is the bookends, as you said, to the documentary. So high scores all around for our first random review. The exciting part of the end of each of our episodes is we roll the dice and we go for our next
low number. Please.
We go for our next review. So pardon the clicks and everything here, but I'm gonna go and generate now. I have it all. Since we started like there was 15,370 in Metacritic. Now there's 15,450. So we're dealing with extra movies here.
It'll never be over.
Exactly. And hopefully 15k plus title won't be out of date. Anyway, so I'm going to generate here. Cross your fingers for something random. Obviously, it's going to be random.
Come on, go.
5308.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's going to be
average enough.
That's going to be on page 53, I believe, of the website. Let's see. Okay. Oh, I think I know this. It's like 5308. Oh, sorry, that was not it. 5308. A movie that got 68, has scored 68 on Metacritic. The name of the movie is Kisses. I've never heard of it. It was released in July 16th, 2010.
It sounds manly.
It's a drama. It's set in Ireland.
Oh, great.
On the fringes of Dublin, two kids, Kylie and Dylan, live in a suburban housing estate devoid of life, colour and the prospect of escape. Kylie lives with 5 other siblings and her overworked mother. Next door, Dylan lives in the shadow of an alcoholic father and the memory of an elder brother who ran away from home. And all the rest of it gets even darker and bleaker. So it's something to look forward to.
Okay. Nice depressing one for next week.
Yeah, so that's Kisses 2010. It's got a Metascore of 68 and a user score of 7.
Oh.
So, we'll see you all then for episode 2 of 50k plus random movie reviews.